Europe faces a rising tide of challenges. It's not climate change this time. It's religious extremism. This isn't about faith alone. It's about exploiting faith for violent ends, causing chaos and fear. We see it in the headlines almost every day. We see it in our streets, in our neighborhoods. This isn't someone else's problem. It's a shared threat that affects us all. Religious extremism takes many forms, each more dangerous than the last. It can be subtle, creeping into our lives unnoticed or shocking with violent outbursts. It can target individuals or entire communities, leaving scars that last generations. But one thing is constant in all its forms. It seeks to divide us, to pit neighbor against neighbor. It thrives on fear and distrust, breaking the bonds of our communities. And it demands our attention, our vigilance and our action. We can't afford to ignore this growing menace. We can't afford to be complacent, thinking it won't affect us. Religious extremism, if left unchecked, will poison the well of tolerance and understanding. It will erode the very fabric of our societies, tearing apart what we hold dear. Our future depends on understanding this threat and confronting it head-on together. Religious extremism isn't a theoretical threat, it's a clear and present danger. We see it in the terrorist attacks that have shaken Europe. From the streets of Paris to the heart of Brussels, the human cost is undeniable. These attacks aren't just about casualties, they're about spreading fear, they're about disrupting our way of life. They target our sense of security. They make us question our values, and they force us to confront difficult choices. The rise of teenage terrorism is particularly alarming. Young people, often influenced online, are being drawn into extremist ideologies. Their anger and alienation are being exploited, and the consequences are devastating. Religious extremism doesn't just threaten our security, it also undermines the very fabric of our societies. It thrives on division, it exploits existing tensions, and it seeks to pit communities against each other. We see this in the rise of Islamophobia. We see it in the backlash against immigrants, and we see it in the erosion of trust between different faith groups. This division weakens us all. It creates fertile ground for prejudice and discrimination, and it makes it harder to address the root causes of extremism. The crackdown on Islamic symbols in some countries is a case in point. While presented as a security measure, it often alienates and marginalizes Muslim communities. This can backfire, pushing individuals towards extremism instead of away from it. Social media has become a powerful tool for religious extremists. It's a recruiting ground, it's a propaganda machine. Extremists use these platforms to reach a global audience, spreading their messages far and wide with just a few clicks. And it's incredibly difficult to control. The sheer volume of posts and the speed at which they spread make it a daunting task for moderators. Extremists use social media to spread their message of hate. They exploit the anonymity and reach of these platforms to incite violence and division. They create echo chambers where their ideology goes unchallenged. These echo chambers reinforce their beliefs and make it harder for outside perspectives to penetrate. And they prey on the vulnerable. Those who feel isolated or marginalized are particularly at risk. Young people are particularly susceptible. They spend a significant amount of time online, making them prime targets for extremist recruiters. They're often more trusting of information online. This trust can be easily manipulated by those with malicious intent. They're seeking a sense of belonging. Social media provides a space where they can connect with others, but it can also lead them into dangerous communities, and they're easily swayed by extremist narratives. These narratives can seem appealing to those looking for purpose or identity. Social media companies are trying to address this. They are implementing policies and employing teams to monitor and remove harmful content. But it's a constant battle. The tactics of extremists evolve, and the platforms must continuously adapt. The algorithms that drive social media engagement often amplify extremist content. This amplification can give extremist voices disproportionate reach, and the sheer volume of information makes it difficult to police effectively. The vast amount of data generated every second is overwhelming. We need to find ways to counter extremist narratives online. This includes promoting positive messages and providing alternative viewpoints. We need to educate young people about the dangers of online radicalization. Awareness and education are key to preventing the spread of extremist ideologies. Section 5. Breeding grounds for extremism, understanding the root causes. In this section, we delve deep into the underlying factors that contribute to the rise of extremism. To effectively combat religious extremism, we need to understand what drives it. There's no single answer, no one-size-fits-all explanation. It's a complex mix of factors, each interwoven with the other, creating a tangled web of influences. But some common themes emerge, providing us with a clearer picture of the root causes. Personal grievances can play a significant role. These grievances often stem from perceived injustices or personal losses. Individuals who feel marginalized, alienated, or angry can be particularly susceptible to extremist ideologies. These feelings of exclusion can be powerful motivators. These ideologies offer a sense of belonging, purpose, and identity, filling a void in the lives of those who feel lost or disconnected. They provide simple answers to complex problems, making them appealing to those seeking clarity in a confusing world. Social and economic factors are also important. Poverty, lack of opportunity, and economic instability can drive individuals towards extremism. Poverty, lack of opportunity, and discrimination can create fertile ground for extremism. When people feel they have no future, they may turn to radical solutions. When people feel hopeless and left behind, they're more likely to be drawn to extremist groups. These groups promise change and a sense of empowerment. Political grievances can also contribute significantly. Issues like political oppression and lack of representation can fuel discontent. Perceived injustice, government corruption, and foreign policy decisions can fuel resentment and anger, creating a breeding ground for extremist ideologies. Extremists exploit these grievances to recruit followers, offering them a sense of purpose and a way to fight back against perceived enemies. Section 6. A global stage for terror. The far-reaching impact of attacks. Terrorist attacks, especially those carried out by transnational organizations, have a global reach. They dominate news cycles, they instill fear far beyond the immediate victims, and they can have a profound impact on international relations. The media plays a role in this. Terrorist attacks are often sensationalized, amplifying the terrorist's message. This can create a climate of fear and insecurity. It can also lead to overreactions and misguided policies. Terrorist groups understand this. They carefully select targets that will generate maximum media attention. They aim to strike at the heart of our societies and undermine our values. We need to be mindful of this. Section 7. The tightrope walk, balancing security and freedom. The threat of religious extremism poses a difficult dilemma. We need to keep our citizens safe, but we also need to protect our values. Finding the right balance between security and freedom is essential. In the wake of a terrorist attack, it's tempting to resort to draconian measures. Increased surveillance, restrictions on civil liberties, and profiling can seem like the answer. But these measures can be counterproductive. They can alienate communities, they can erode trust in government, and they can create a climate of fear and suspicion. This can actually make us less safe by driving people towards extremism. Section 8. Fighting fire with more than water, comprehensive counterterrorism strategies. Effectively countering religious extremism requires a multifaceted approach. It's not enough to simply respond to attacks. We need to address the root causes of extremism. And we need to do so in a way that upholds our values. This means investing in education and opportunity. It means promoting tolerance and understanding. It means addressing discrimination and inequality. And it means working to resolve conflicts peacefully. We also need to counter extremist narratives. This means supporting organizations that promote critical thinking and tolerance. It means working with social media companies to curb the spread of extremist content online. And it means amplifying the voices of those who have been directly affected by extremism. Section 9. The price of security, civil liberties at stake. The fight against terrorism shouldn't come at the cost of our freedoms. When we sacrifice our liberties in the name of security, we're playing into the hands of the extremists. We're undermining the very values we're trying to protect. Mass surveillance, for example, can have a chilling effect on free speech. It can erode privacy, and it can create a climate of fear and self-censorship. Similarly, profiling based on religion or ethnicity is discriminatory and counterproductive. It alienates communities, it undermines trust in law enforcement, and it can actually make us less safe by creating a false sense of security. We need to be vigilant in defending our civil liberties. Section 10. United, we stand. The importance of global cooperation. Terrorism is a global threat, and it requires a global response. No single country can defeat terrorism alone. We need to work together. This means sharing intelligence, it means coordinating law enforcement efforts, and it means supporting each other's counterterrorism initiatives. International organizations like the United Nations have a crucial role to play. They can provide a forum for dialogue and cooperation. They can help to coordinate international efforts. And they can provide support to countries that are struggling to combat terrorism. We also need to engage with civil society organizations. They play a vital role in countering extremist narratives. They work to build bridges between communities, and they provide support to victims of terrorism. Section 11, looking ahead, a call for vigilance and understanding. The threat of religious extremism is real, and it's here to stay. But we can't let fear paralyze us. We need to be vigilant, we need to be informed, and we need to be engaged. We need to understand the root causes of extremism. We need to challenge extremist narratives, and we need to support those who are working to build a more peaceful and tolerant world. This is not a battle that will be won overnight. It will require patience, perseverance, and a commitment to our values, but it's a battle we must win. Our future depends on it.